So good morning, everyone. Today's presentation is brought to you by Well NYC. Thank you for joining us for Parenting and Caregiver Self-Care. My name is Ayana Mbonu, and I am the Be Well Program Manager. Next slide. I am very honored to be joined by a dynamic panelist group of women. Deborah Friedman, she's our Assistant Commissioner of Workforce Engagement and Innovation at New York City Office of Labor Relations. And she oversees our Well NYC, your worksite wellness program. Deborah is a single parent of 18-year-old twin girls. They graduated from high school last June 2020, and she's the primary caregiver for her mother here in New York City and her uncle in Florida. And we're also joined by Sophie Paws. She's the Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Mayor's Office of Thrive NYC. Sophie has spent her career working at the intersection of public, private, and not-for-profit sectors. Sophie's son, Lucas, he was born on October 5th, 2020, and is now 5 months old. And she returned to work early January and is balancing new motherhood with her full-time position in the mayor's office. I'm hopeful that we'll be joined by Deputy Commissioner Wynette Saunders. She's worked in the fields of higher education, social services within city government, and the not-for-profit arena. She currently serves as Deputy Commissioner for Administration at the Administration for Children's Services, and she is a parent of a young adult. And I didn't introduce myself as a parent. I am a parent of 2 young adults. I have a freshman in college and a high school senior. So before we jump in, I will tell you just a little bit about Well NYC. So Well NYC is your city's worksite wellness program. And our mission is to create workplaces that engage and empower city employees to live healthy, active lifestyles and to provide health and well-being services, programs, and resources. And we do this through 5 key program areas: Move More, which is physical activity; Eat Well is healthy eating and nutrition; Take Action, it was our prevention program and prior care program; Be Well, that is our mental health and resiliency program; and our new initiative, Project Build. It's building understanding, inclusion, learning, and diversity. And their goal is health equity. Next slide. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to talk about parenting and caregiving in a pandemic. We're going to have a healthy discussion period. We're going to talk about self-care, have a visualization and takeaway action plan, and we'll have a nice Q&A at the end. So before we get started, I'd like to just learn about who is in our virtual room, right? Are you a parent? Are you a caregiver, or both? So we're going to launch a poll, and we ask that you just answer the poll. Okay, looks like everyone's answered. We've got a lot of parents in the room. All righty. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Great. So next slide, please. All righty. So let's think about, like, who are we in the workforce? So women have been in the workforce for many years, right? But from the time that, U.S. Department of Labor started to, keep these numbers, 1948, women made up only 32% of the labor force. But by 2016, they made up over 56%, 56.8% of the labor force. And in 1975, mothers with children under the age of 3 years old made up only 34%. But now, 2016, and I'm sure these numbers are even larger now, a mother with a child under the age of 3 years old made up 63% of our labor force. And just note, these numbers are just a little slightly higher for people of color. And so we've been in the workforce as women and as parents for many years. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a history on where we are. I'm going to hand this slide over to Debbie. Debbie's going to talk a little bit about caregiving in the pandemic.
Thanks, Ayana, and happy International Women's Day to everybody. And thank you all for all that you do, protecting and serving the city of New York. We really do appreciate it. And so I'm sure none of you are surprised that 2 out of 3 caregivers in the United States are women. And my bet is it's probably even higher now during the pandemic. What's interesting about being a caregiver, which typically means those folks who take care of people other than themselves and their children. Obviously, parents are caregivers. So, but in this context, we're talking about people who are taking care of a spouse, taking care of parents, or other family members. You know, as Ayana said, take care, quote, take care of my elderly mother, even though she hates if I use that term, and uncle who's in Florida. And I'm one of those folks who are in that sandwich generation. So while I have teenagers who did start college this year, they still, as you know, have big kids, big problems, little kids, little problems. So there's still issues that you need to address, although they are certainly more independent. And during the pandemic, part of the challenge that we've seen is significant financial hardship. Many folks have either lost jobs or lost a percentage of income, and or their family members have. And so that's impacted them. In the pandemic, I know for myself, part of prior to my mother was fairly independent, but with so much shutting down and socialization shutting down, she had the potential to be very isolated and also not having the opportunity to go to a restaurant for dinner or to see friends. And so much more of the responsibility fell to me to making sure that she was able to get to the doctors, get to have the food in the house that was needed, just be able to engage with people where she would otherwise have been able to do that on her own. Obviously, other times I've had to be a caregiver where you're worrying about home care, or making sure that folks have literally everything that they need in a very challenging environment. And sometimes the caregiving happens in your own home where you might have a spouse, as well as young children who you have to take care of. So, like everything during this pandemic, both caregiving and taking care of your kids is a challenge. So just validate, it's really hard.
Thank you, Debbie. And thank you, Debbie, for that. So we're going to launch another poll. We want to see who is the major caregiver in your household. In your household, who shoulders the bulk of caregiving responsibilities? Are the women the ones who carry most of the responsibilities? Are the men, or is it equally distributed? Ah, oh, looks like a lot of the women. Okay. Some houses are evenly, and we do say men, they are stepping up. Um, Great to hear. All righty. So let's see the results. Yes, 71% say women, but we do acknowledge that our men are contributing, and some women are. In some families, it's even higher for 24% for caregiving responsibility evenly distributed. Thank you for sharing. All right. Alrighty, so now I'm going to turn it over to Sophie to talk a little bit about parenting in the pandemic.
Thank you so much, Ayana, and thanks for being here, everybody. It's great to be in a Zoom room with lots of parents and caregivers. So, I think needless to say, balancing one role, more than one role, when we're all trying to stay focused on work, trying to stay healthy, trying to stay safe is hard. And when you add children to that equation, it's even harder. As we saw in the poll, and as we know from studies that have been done locally and nationally, in many households, 53% of parents say that mom is the primary caregiver. And a lot of women, as a result of the demands on them, are leaving the workforce. There's been a lot of writing of late about sort of this inflection point that we're at, where you saw women sort of their participation in the workforce rising, and now the effects of the pandemic really either stalling that growth or actually seeing a dip. That's alarming, I think big picture for what it means about the workforce, but it also means that a lot of women are just burdening this huge emotional toll, are burdened by this huge emotional toll, and just reflecting, from my opinion, I think one of the things that's been hard, besides just the nuts and bolts of making sure that your children are fed, that they're sleeping, that they're healthy, is this sort of shifting environment and this uncertainty that we're all inhabiting. One day we're going to school, the next we're not. One day, we're wearing one mask, then two masks, and these changing guidelines, when you think about the well-being of these children and babies and young adults that you love so much, it's really hard, and I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be good, quote unquote, parents. And when what being a good parent means is shifting all the time, at least from a public health perspective, it just heightens the stress that we're all under. And so I'm sure many of you have a lot more parenting experience than I do as the mother of a 5-month-old. But I think that's something that we can all think about. And as Debbie said, help to sort of normalize what we're all going through, because shared experience and talking about stress and is one really good way to start addressing the emotional burden or the emotional stress that we might be under. Ayana, please add anything or take it away. Thank you.
Sophie, you said it so well. I appreciate that. Yes, we are going through, a difficult time. This is a pandemic. Nobody has been through anything like this, anything near what we're going through now. And so this is a difficult time for everyone. And we are resilient. There are many ways that we have built our resilience to today. It's almost a year to the date of when we all went down on lockdown. And so I'm just very thankful that we're here today and we're able to talk about how we can continue to take care of ourselves. So let's move to the next slide. We're going to have a lively discussion here. So I'd like you to use your chat section. Yes. Sergeant Loman, you women are heroes. Thank you. We appreciate you. And so, yes, and everyone in our audience, thank you for joining us. This is International Women's Day, and you all are heroes. And I just want to thank you as well for keeping us all safe. So let's chat. What has been the most challenging for you during this pandemic? Share if you're parenting, if you're homeschooling children right now, and please add this into the chat so we can talk a little bit about it. So I see finances. Sophie, limited social support. Debbie, you can share, you can unmute yourself. What has been your most challenge during this pandemic?
Well, I would say last spring with my teenagers, having second semester seniors who are both extraordinarily social beings, and having them at home, unable to go out, unable to participate in all of the school activities they've been gearing up for since, freshman year. In some ways it sounds silly and trite, the prom, graduation, even sitting for AP exams that they had been studying for. It was just so devastating for them to miss on that. And so trying to find ways to keep their energy up, to get them out of bed. It's hard to get teenagers out of bed on a good day, let alone when there was nothing for them to get out of bed for. I mean, there were days they said, why? I didn't have a good answer. So, I think, and then, so then it gets to what is being a good parent during that time. Getting them up by 3, they had no school. It was, and I'm very grateful that I had teenagers who were able to feed, dress, and clothe themselves and get themselves on Zoom when they needed to. So for obviously folks with young kids who had to be workers, teachers, etc., And for those of you at PD who are reporting every day,
Mhm.
and finding the support that you needed to take care of your kids, getting them to the rec centers, right, and not having that broader social support, um, it's really challenging, really challenging. And then hearing my mother being lonely and sad. That's not who she ever
Right.
was. So,
Absolutely. And it sounds like, in the chat section, lots of people are echoing exactly what you had said, Deborah. Lots of people are indicating that finances were a concern for them, homeschooling, juggling several responsibilities, adapting to having children home. Homeschooling was new for lots of people, children were going to school. I know for myself, I like you, I'm thankful that my kids could bathe themselves, get themselves dressed, and manage their schoolwork on their own. I really do take my hat off to parents of young children during this period. Um, and so, I, yeah, it's been a really hard, long road. We never thought that we'd be here a year later, still under these circumstances. And so, I just want to impart upon you, you all are very resilient. And I just hope that our talk here will help you to continue to build on that resilience. Um, and so, what has helped you most during this pandemic? Sophie, would you like to share what has helped you during this pandemic?
Sure. So I'll be honest, I've had the luxury of working from home. I'm not a first responder, a frontline responder, and I really applaud and thank all of you who are. So as someone who has been able to work from home, I began the pandemic. I was 2 months pregnant, and delivered during the pandemic, and throughout, I think the thing for my mental health that has been the most helpful is getting out of the house safely with a mask. So I have basically taken a long walk, sometimes carrying my baby every morning, as much as I could, weather allowing, and just the break from home, the break from the computer, the break from just the environment I've been stuck in has been tremendously helpful, just to clear my head and get some fresh air.
Mhm.
And my baby is so small that I was able to wear him around for a while, and so that is something that may be easier to do than with a toddler or even a young teen.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that, Sophie. Um, for myself, what's helped me during this pandemic really is, you know, Zoom calls with my family. We could have Zoomed with family members across the country way before now, but who would have ever thought of that, right? And so that has really been one thing that I've really enjoyed, family getting together. And so that's one thing that has helped me in the pandemic. Other people have said in the chat section that their faith and prayer has helped, and considering taking time off when they needed it was really helpful. Other people have said homeschooling their daughter was helpful. Yeah, so we are resilient. Can't say that enough. We are not just surviving, but we're thriving right now. Um,
but I
so
also think, we should just keep remembering and like validating all of these folks who feel like they had multiple full-time jobs. So you're working as a police officer or a civilian PD officer, office worker, and then you have to rush home to either take care of your children or help the children do their schoolwork, or to relieve the parent who's been taking care of the kids all day, even though you're exhausted. It's really, really, really hard. um, it's really hard. And so part of what we want to do is not only acknowledge how difficult this time has been, but also to recognize what an amazing job you've done doing all that you do. And that it is important to take care of yourself, like finding, even as we'll talk later, a minute to breathe for yourself, right? Take 10 minutes for yourself, so that, or, that momentary prayer that gives you the strength to go forward. It's really important and critical. Really important. And I'm sorry, I see one of our colleagues has a mom who's recently diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's. And in the best of times, that's a really challenging
Mhm.
place to be. So yeah, we all send prayers your way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Debbie. So let's move on to self-care. And so I'm not sure if you all took a chance to hear your speakers earlier this morning, but Dr. Kristen Neff talked a lot about self-compassion, and that's hand in hand with self-care. And I thought this was a way to start off this conversation about self-care with some humor, which is a great way to practice self-care. I'm not sure if some of these quotes may resonate with you, but these are some funny quotes that some parents, some mothers have shared on the internet. And I'll just read one off to you. By self-care, I assume you mean kicking my family out of the house. This one definitely resonates with me. You know, being on this webinar today, I had to kick everyone off the internet to make sure that we don't have any technical problems. So, um, you know, um, self-care is really important, and doing our job is really important. And so, let's talk about what that looks like. So, we're going to launch a poll again. I want to keep you really engaged today. And so, what practice are you employing right now? Is it meditation, exercise, socializing with friends? Like I said before, we're very resilient, and we're already probably doing lots of these things already. So it'd be interesting to see just what you're actually doing to do to take care of yourself. Awesome. Awesome. I see a lot of exercise. I really do hope that you all are taking advantage of our wellness classes. I'll put the link in the chat section for everyone. We have free health classes. There you go. Okay, and
It's so
laughter.
nice to see how many people are laughing. That's great. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It looks like laughter is the highest number, 54%. So it's wonderful that people are keeping themselves well with laughter. That's a really great and easy, quick way to practice self-care. All right. So why self-care? So coronavirus has challenged our mental health and emotional wellness to the extent that experts predict a mental health crisis is underway. According to a Kaiser Family Foundation poll, 45% of adults say that the pandemic has affected their mental health, and 19% say it has had a major impact. And so we know that what we are enduring right now has really impacted our lives and changed our lives in many, many ways. The American Psychological Association reports how the economy has become a source of stress for 70% of adults in America, and that's up 46% just in 2019. So in a nutshell, self-care is the conscious, deliberate actions that you practice to take care of yourself. Self-care is the time that you dedicate to you with the intention of boosting and nourishing your mental, emotional, and physical health. Um, it's important for us to be able to care for others, so we have to care for ourselves first, right? We all have been on the plane when we're taught put on our oxygen mask before we help our our loved one, right? And so that's the same idea with self-care. Put on your oxygen mask, take care of yourself so that you can help the ones that you care about most, right? Parents and caregivers are often the same people who put the well-being of others above themselves, right? And so Dr. Kristen Neff said, self-compassion, self-compassion, right? Self-care, take care of yourselves, right? And so let's look at some of the strategies that we suggest that you use to employ to care for yourself. So we saw in the chat and on our poll that lots of people are already using laughter and exercise. I shared the exercise link for you. There's lots of upcoming events for your wellness program. So please make sure that you choose those events. And yes, Sergeant Loman indicated all of that your agency is doing as well with yoga and fitness and other types of classes. So you've got lots to choose from to practice this self-care. So with your body, what can you do? 7 to 8 hours of sleep are so crucial. So we need that sleep in order to be well, to be able to tackle the challenges of our days. So sleep is really, really important. There's a pervasive cultural pressure to keep pushing ourselves, right? Just keep going, get it done, right? Ignore our physical needs and our bodies and our emotional needs of our souls, right? And then that invariably leads to chronic depression, stress, burnout. And depressed parents and caregivers, they can't effectively take care of their loved ones, right? And so self-care is so very important. Take walks outside. It's warming up outside right now. The spring is upon us. So get outside, take a walk, get that fresh air in your lungs. And it helps the kids as well. Read a book. Maybe you start a book club with your friends, with your coworkers. Meditate. There's lots of opportunity for yoga and meditation in your agency, as well as the classes that we offer. So please just choose something and do it. It's going to help you. Spending time with family, and like I said, host that Zoom party, right? At work, we were having these Zoom hangouts at the end of the week, and one day we actually did a scavenger hunt. It was so much fun, and so just be creative, think outside the box. Outside the box. If you're zoomed out, don't do it as often. Maybe instead of once a week, you do it once a month. But connecting with others is so vitally important. Actually, in some research for this, I learned that our lifespan is extended 50% just as with social connections and having meaningful relationships with others, right? So connect with people is so very important to our overall wellness. And it's the most empowering thing that you can do to nurture yourself.
Ayana, I just want to mention Sergeant Lohman put in the chat for folks who aren't able to see, weren't following it. You know, NYPD has a wonderful health and wellness program, and their Instagram page has lots of resources. I'm a subscriber, and so it's great little, you know, short 3 minutes. Here's a quick workout, things that you can do that feel very manageable. And the people are all NYPD officers or civilians who are doing this themselves, and they're really inspirational. So it's definitely worth checking their page out. And I see there's also a way of connecting with the 6,000 uniformed female police officers in the chat to be part of the PEA as another group of folks to connect to.
Thank you, Debbie, for adding that. Actually, yesterday morning there was yoga on NYPD on the app. There was a live stream. There was a person leading it with her children, and so absolutely, there's lots to choose from. And I see that Wynette Saunders, our Deputy Commissioner ACS, has joined us. So please jump in at any point where you would like to. Oh, want to say hello?
Yes, yes. So first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me. I apologize. At our office at 66 John, our internet is down, so I'm not able to get on. I first thought it was the Zoom link, but it seems like it's something with our office location. So as luck would have it, I had to join by my phone, but I definitely couldn't miss this opportunity to be with you all. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for coming, for powering through and making sure that you got on today. Really appreciate it. So the next slide, Annie, that was you. I see Annie. She was the person who led the yoga yesterday. So thank you so much. So the next slide is a quick and easy exercise that we can do at any moment. It's some really powerful, simple relaxation technique that aims to return your breath to its normal rhythm, right? So if you are having a lot of anxiety or stress at some point, this is a real simple and easy exercise that can clear your mind and relax your body and help to improve your focus. So it's just what it says. You take a moment, you breathe in 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and you hold for 4 seconds. And this is really great and easy. If 4 seconds is too long for you, I suggest you do it for 3 seconds. If 3 seconds is too long for you, then 2 seconds. The idea is that you should practice it when you need it and build up your ability to hold for longer. And this gives you quick and easy things that you can do. No, you don't need anything other than the instructions. And we shared a lot of these resources with you, and so they could be able to download for you after the workshop. So caregiving strategies. What are you doing to help yourself? So Lynette, since you joined us lately, uh, um, since you just joined us, what are some things that you do to help yourself that has been successful for you during this time?
So I want to say that this is an area that I definitely struggle with. And I can say that to you all, striving to be the best um, within the career, striving to be the best mom, striving to be the best sister, the best daughter. It's very difficult for me. But one thing that I've proven to have worked for me has been trying to integrate some time.
We lost your sound.
Can you hear me? Okay, good.
No.
Oh boy, now I can't hear you guys.
We hear you.
We
Okay,
hear you
good,
just
good.
fine.
Okay, good. So that's what I'm trying to work on, trying to get a more consistent routine going. But that is the thing that I'm trying to integrate more consistently to support myself.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. So I'm going to go through some things, and you see here on the screen that it says caregiving. And these are also things that you can do with your children as well. And so it's really great to have a routine, right? A little bit more time than what you might need, right? At this juncture, I'm sure you had a routine when you started, but it's a great way to kind of revisit that routine that you might have had and make some alterations, because who knew we would still be here, right? And so how can you, with all the knowledge that you have, help to have a better understanding about what will make the best time for your day, right? And so your children may have a special project that they're doing, right? And so you may want to allot a little bit more time to a particular day because of that, right? But it's important to understand and just be flexible, right? There are so many things that are out of our control right now. And so being flexible is really important, just to continue our wellness. Set aside time each day to unwind, right? So whether you have a nice luxurious bath at the end of the day, or you take a walk after dinner, or you read a book, just take some time each day to have to just have a routine and relax. Adjusting your mindset, right? If for nothing else, we've been challenged with trying to think differently, right? To continue to be well and thrive during this time. So take a few moments. Perhaps you can like brainstorm with your children. How do we practice gratitude each day? What are some calming activities we'd like to do throughout the day that we could just jump in and do? Someone indicated in the chat section that they have a prayer line. That's wonderful. And practice gratitude. That's a great way to kind of wake your children up and start your day on a positive footing, right? Remind yourself why you're doing this. You're doing this because you want to care for your family. You love your family, right? And so just reminding yourself of that may help you as well to continue to be well and get support from others. Um, Ask for help if you need it. I'm sure that there are friends and family who perhaps can help you, if not all the time, can just even be a listening ear that can help you to just be listening so you can maybe vent because you've had a hard day. So it's important to kind of be flexible, practice mindfulness, get out and walk. A mindfulness walk means just taking a walk in the neighborhood and counting the things that you see in the neighborhood. That can be really, really helpful to help you just be grounded and be well.
And
Um,
Ayana, again, in the chat, because I'm not sure if you're able while talking to see the chat, there was also reference to the NYPD EAP. So just in terms of getting support from others, it could also be that you need support from somebody that's not your family and friends to talk through what's going on, including potentially your frustration with a partner who's not pulling their weight or a sibling who's not being the child support that they need to your parents, and it's falling on you and you're working full-time, working 12-hour shifts, homeschooling, blah, 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 that you need to have somebody else to talk to. So the employee assistance program is there for you. And they might also be able to help you think through adjustments that you need at work if it's possible, so that they could be a terrific resource. And I just wanted to throw out something that was really helpful to me when my kids were little, which is this concept of good enough. I mean, many of us, as we approach the world, are, I'll talk for myself, like a type A personality. I wanted everything to be just so. And then I had twins and like life unraveled. I couldn't maintain the level that I did before, whether it was the timing of my dishes being washed. I mean, like everything fell apart. And so somebody said, you just need to be good enough, right? Loving your children, keeping them safe, making sure they're fed, they're clean, to just like, and when Ayana was talking about adjusting your mindset, that was really helpful to me. And imagine that a friend was talking to you about what they were trying to accomplish. You wouldn't say, oh my, that's not perfect enough. You're not going to get 110 A plus. You're going to get a 90 or an 85. And that's okay. It's passing. It's passing with flying colors. And especially in this time when we're under so much pressure, it's okay. You know what? The kids are going to watch another hour of Peppa the pig. Okay, so what? In the scheme of life, it's going to be okay. So just, give yourself a break. Be a friend to yourself.
Thanks for that, Debbie. Would anyone else on the panel like to just talk about one caregiving strategy that Sophie, would you like to chime in?
Sure. So I think one thing that I've done for myself in this context is delegation, and without calling any shots on my husband, I've noticed that if I'm able to delegate specifically, and to really define what needs to happen, that can buy myself a little bit of time. So on the front end, it means investing a little more time to describe what I hope will happen, and then being able to step back, and also being able to let go a little bit and not feel like, to Debbie's point, you have to control everything. And I think so delegation and relinquishing control over that sort of perfect outcome, if you will. If my 5-month-old naps for 30 minutes, it's not great, but it's fine. And so just thinking about where you can push and pull, and stepping out of the equation when possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that, Sophie. I like the relinquishing some of that control, right? Because we like to see things done a certain way, right? But understanding, just like Debbie said, you know what, good enough is okay. It doesn't always have to be the way we want it to be, long as it gets done. And no one's hurt in the in the meantime, right? And so this is a perfect segue. I'd like for everyone to get a piece of paper and a pen. We're going to do a wonderful exercise. Next. So this is our self-assessment, right? So I ask that you take a moment and just think about, how is your day broken down, right? And so draw a pie chart showing the percentage of time that you spend on yourself, your job, your responsibilities at home, and your relationships. So this is an example of my day. So I have a lot of time I identify that I spend on work, a lot of time on chores, not as much time in sleep or with my family that I would like to. So what does your pie chart look like? When doing this exercise, it was really interesting to do for myself, for me to really acknowledge that I spend a lot of time at work. And so I need, being at work and having the luxury of working from home, I realize that I do turn on my computer a little, uh, a, not, I wouldn't say a little too much, but I'll go back to something later at night where I may need to be, just doing something else with my family or taking care of myself. So I'd like to turn it over to our panelists. The next slide, Sophie and Debbie. They actually took a moment to do their befores. So Debbie, would you like to start with your current chart?
Sure. Well, so clearly my priority are sleeping and working. And I don't do enough chores. So I'm really good at procrastinating on that as I have my health insurance pile sitting next to me. And one of the things that I've been really committed to is my self-care. So I do make sure that I spend, I do a twice a day meditation that are 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. And so that hour, and sometimes it happens just before I go to bed, although I try and do it before dinner. And my kids will talk about how much more even I am in my life. And I started this practice about 8 or 9 years ago. And there's no question it really helped me get through the terrible teens. There's terrible twos for those of you with little kids, but then the terrible teens come and they're even more mean because they know every button to press. And so that has been really critical for me. I was actually sort of happy. I mean, I would love to be able to spend more time with my family. But again, I have teenagers, so they didn't necessarily want to. And um, so I was, yeah, so that's where I am. I would love to have to work less, but we're not in that position at this point. So, then I can bump everything else up.
Sophie, would you like to share? Thanks for
Sure.
Thanks, Debbie.
So I think this exercise was actually hard for me because the chores and the family sections feel very overlapping to me. I feel like when I look back at the weekend and someone asks me what I did, I have a really hard time telling you what I did. Like, I feel like I didn't have a moment to really sit, but I was just sort of worrying about all weekend. And I think it's not that it was so taxing, but it's I think, to Debbie's point, important to just have time that's really clear cut and dedicated for you. Like, it's going between a napping baby to cleaning the bottles to cleaning the floor to putting away the laundry. And so those lines for me, everything is just blurred right now, including the line between work and chores and family. And so I think what I'm struggling with right now is figuring out how to compartmentalize a little bit, and then how to increase that share of time that's personal or self-care, however you define it. When I was calculating what the personal time that I have is, I literally was thinking, okay, it's the walk that I take and the shower that I take. And that's because I have a young child, but I think stretching that out a little bit will definitely be a goal and a priority that I take away from this conversation.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sophie, for that. So let's dream big. I'm challenging everyone to see, okay, now what would your ideal time breakdown look like? So we're going to do this exercise again, but this time, if you could change anything about how you spend your time, what would you change? So I challenge you to draw another chart, but this is your dream time breakdown, okay? So for an example here, I would spend the appropriate enough time on work. I would have more time for sleep. I would have a little less time for chores, and I would have more social time and time to, you know, practice my hobbies. At the beginning of the pandemic, I started making masks. Now they're so cheap and so for easily accessible. I don't make masks anymore, but I am looking forward to the warm weather and gardening. So I would like to get outside more often. So what would you like to change in your chart? Um, what are some steps that you can work towards your ideal? So Debbie and Sophie also took a chance, took an opportunity to share with us their actual dream chart. And so Sophie, would like to start with you.
Sure. So mine, I decreased the amount of time I spend on work a little bit. I think coming back from maternity leave, things were super busy. And so getting that down a little bit might not be realistic, but it's a goal. And then I think the biggest changes are really, I sort of gave up on sleep. So I really focused on increasing both personal and family time. And, what I would like is to have more time to exercise, like we've talked about, more time to see friends and family. So pretty straightforward, I think.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I see actually, so if we didn't put sleep, I maintain because I'm pretty good about getting somewhere between 7 and 8 hours a night. And I just want to remind people how absolutely critical sleep is. Um, and especially for those of you who are working in the field all day, it's really important that you get adequate sleep in terms of both your mental health and your physical health. So if you haven't prioritized, to figure out a way to prioritize, and I know especially when you have little kids and lots to do, it's easier said than done. But like Sophie said, putting the laundry away, it doesn't have to go away. It's clean, it's in a basket, put it to the side. You can fish from that. Like seriously, that's the good enough part. So for
Absolutely.
me, like Sophie, I'd love to work less. It's not happening, but you said to dream, and so I did. That's why not? And I look forward to having like positive time with family, not just about the worrying and the logisticating, which is a lot of what we do now.
Mhm.
So I guess that's the sort of family social that I'd like to see more of, because I also think that the worrying about your family and your childcare responsibilities and your chores happens and invades all the other parts of your circle.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Mhm. Thanks for
And
sharing.
actually exercising more would also help with sleep. So
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm seeing the chat section. We have a lot of people who want to increase their sleep. Um, And so I'm just going to give a shout out to Workwell. We have a Q&A on sleep coming up on March 10th. And so if you can log in and participate in that webinar, that would be awesome. I'm putting the link for our upcoming events there, and there you'll find the information to register for that webinar. And I suggest even if you can't see it live, still register, because then you will be receiving the link for the actual recording in your email so that you can view it at your leisure afterwards. So please go ahead and schedule for that if you think that that would be helpful. So Lynette, I'm going to call on you. I know you didn't have a chance to do your chart, but if you could think big and dream big, what one thing would you do in the upcoming weeks or months that would help you to have a little bit better harmony or balance with your work life?
Yeah, so I just want to say I'm so sorry again. IT is actually here trying to fix my computer because this is, of course, what happened on the day that I'm supposed to prevent, but I'm determined that I'm not going to stop talking and participating. So I just wanted to share that for me, I think first I want to just say that I love what my co-panelists are saying. What Sophie said most recently really resonated with me about delegation. And I wanted to say that, oftentimes I think most of us think we have to do whatever is set in front of us. And so it's hard to delegate, but I do believe that that is the key in some of these instances. As it relates to my ideal chart, I would like to see, two things. I have determined that I'm delegating when I can to someone who can come in and help me do some chores. So I'm going to minimize that part for myself, and I'm just going to pay for the support that I need with getting someone to assist me with cleaning once a month. I've already started that. And then I'd like to see my pie chart increase in the self-care and in the family area. And my co-panelists mentioned about having adult children and not necessarily, it may not be the position of your oldest child to want to spend as much time as they used to. So my son is 20 years old, and although we do spend time together, it is much less than it used to be. I come, the girlfriend, of course, comes first. So I'm thinking that time that we used to spend, I would like to see it allocated more to my self-care. So that's where I'd like to see my pie charts increase.
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. I can totally relate um, with the older children. And as much as you want to snuggle up and watch a movie together, they definitely have their own plans. So,
I need to find this mic.
alrighty. Someone wanted to chime in. It sounds like a young person. Alrighty. So I think the next exercise, so hopefully you have thought about what you can dream big, and you have chosen something that you want to change in the next week or so. Next slide. So how do we achieve this kind of work-life harmony? And we like to say harmony because balance, not everything is going to be balanced and equal, right? And harmony, we think we like that statement a little bit better, because what works for one person may not work for another one, right? And so what is harmonious for you? So making your wellness a priority is really important, right? Um, we said it before, often parents and caregivers put other people's health and wellness above their own. And we know absolutely, if we're not well, we can't take care of our loved ones. So make your wellness a priority and set realistic expectations. When we have these goals, sometimes they're big and grandiose, and then we make all these plans, we don't necessarily carry them out, and then we're like, oh, we just, don't think about it anymore. We're like, oh, well, we can't get it done. We're not going to do anything. And I say, set realistic expectations, small expectations that you can actually achieve. Once you achieve it, you add something else on to that list, right? And then if you don't achieve your expectations, it's important to be kind to yourself and know that, okay, I didn't do it. Let me rethink this. Maybe it wasn't the best goal that I have for myself, and what is going to actually work for me, right? Accept that perfection is impossible, right? We are not robots, right? We're human beings. And so perfection is not something that we necessarily have to thrive for, right? I like Debbie, good enough is okay too, right? And look at challenges as opportunities. Think outside the box. If something is really difficult for you to kind of understand what's going to work for you, then try to get, people, your family, your friends, brainstorm, figure out how you can actually reach some of the goals, even though it might be hard for you to, come up with ideas off the top of your head. Time for creativity, make time for creativity. Children love to be creative, and creativity really does help you to be well. Take time to relax. My relaxation day, my whole family can tell you, is my Lifetime Sundays. I get my cooking done for the week, but I really do enjoy my sappy movies to kind of relax for the day on Sunday and get recharged for the work week. And I can't say it enough. Debbie said it, good enough is okay too. So hopefully these are some things that you can incorporate in your action plan. So the action plan is next. We really would like you to take away something that you can do in the next week that you can identify to change in order to move closer to your ideal distribution of time. What specific action can you do, right? And this is really quick. So this is my example: reduce time on chores, spend time on chores. So assign chores to kids, empty the dishwasher, right? And so for my kids, they're big, they could do that really easily, right? But okay, putting away dishes and putting away things, sometimes they need a little instruction because they don't put it away where I want them to put it away, right? And that's the thing about being flexible, what Sophie said earlier. And so this is assigned chores to kids. That's my daughter. She's got a lot of opinions about what we eat. So I also assigned her to food shopping, right? She loves Trader Joe's. They don't deliver. include children in the meal preparation. My kids are older and they're really going to need to know how to take care of themselves. So everyone has a day during the week to prepare a meal for the family and schedule grocery delivery. That is something that I've done already. I wouldn't been able to live without Peapod during this pandemic. So these are the things that I'm doing and are going to integrate a little bit more into my chores to reduce my time spent on chores and get closer to my ideal time spent. So Sophie, Debbie, would you like to, Wynette, would you like to chime in one thing that you can do in the next week or so?
Sure. I think I will try to prioritize myself a little bit more. So, maybe next weekend I'll say, I'll just ask for 2 hours, which means 2 hours for myself. I'll figure out how I want to spend it. And that means no text updates about how the baby is doing, which I find happens a lot. I'll leave, but I'm still sort of in the house via text updates or questions or whatnot. So setting some ground rules that really protects the time. Thanks.
I also like putting scheduled time in my calendar, so it's an appointment. So I need to get back to that, putting that time in my calendar.
And I would like to say that, as I go through this panel today, I'm realizing that I have taken some actions. I actually set up a grocery delivery which shipped. I'm like, wait a minute, I did that already. Okay, so I'm ahead of the game a little bit. So that's the one I'm going to use. I did actually sign up for Shipt, and I have a grocery delivery that's going to be made later this week. So that's going to save me some time as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, everyone. So we don't have a whole lot of time left, so let's move through this.
Well, ladies, happy International Women's Day. Thank you all for coming into the room. We're going to break for lunch in a little bit. If you have any questions, or you can email us. We would love to see all of your photos from the conference. We'd like to see your Zooms, the photos from the precincts if you can. I put the link over and over and over and over and over, if you guys can do that. And if you have any questions or anything, if you want to just get your questions in now with the panelists, because we have about 5 minutes before we break. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. So we can fast forward to the Q&A really quick, and maybe we could take 1 or 2 questions. Anyone in the chat would like to share a particular question? Great information. Thank you. There's more. All right.
I just wanted to comment on the person who said they have the 9-hour day with a 1.5 to 2 hour commute, and they walk in the door and just sleep hits them, and that things are falling through the cracks and balls get dropped. I think the key thing is just to prioritize what shouldn't drop. Not that things are going to get dropped, it will. And so it's what's most important, making sure your bill is paid. But, washing the floor, it can stay another day or 2 more days, or wait till a day off. Those are the kind of things. Just really prioritize what's truly essential and then focus on that, and give yourself a break on the rest of it. If you can't delegate and find other ways to get it done, you really need to take care of yourself. You're under tremendous pressure doing valuable service for everybody else. So give yourself a break. It's okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. And I wanted to make sure that we launch our last poll. I see a lot of people are indicating thank you, and they really do appreciate it. I know you have to break for lunch, but if we can just launch our last poll, and we just like to get an idea if you have, what you have learned from this. And I'm going to leave you with these last few words. I say it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, and the need for my care. Because I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. And that's Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou, love her. And we were joined by phenomenal women on our panel, and you in our virtual audience. So I just want to thank you all for the work that you do. I just want to impart on you that, your self-care is primary important. And please continue to do so. I hope you've learned some new things today, and will implement something new into your self-care routine. And so thank you so much for this time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. On behalf of the PEA,
Thank you.
if just don't sign out.
Thank you.
If you guys don't sign out of the conference page, the Zoom will soon end, but do not sign out of the page. You're still in the conference. So when you go to take your meal, just do not sign out of the page. So then that way there's no confusion. If you have any questions about